A search of local libraries failed to find a rubaiyat with the words Taman Shud torn out. So on July 21st, 1949, a month after the coroner's inquest, police publicly announced that they were looking for copies of a rubaiyat with a torn back page. Within 24 hours, they got 49 calls from locals offering up copies of the book. The next day, on July 23rd, a local chemist walked into the police station carrying a copy of a rubaiyat with the words Taman Shud torn out, and it perfectly matched the scrap that the Somerton Man had.
Which is our 8th clue. And get this, you guys, this chemist had the weirdest story about how he came into possession of this book. So he thinks that while parked near Somerton Beach on November 30th, someone threw it into his backseat through an open window. Now, this would have been the day before the Somerton Man died, and the place the chemist parked that day was walking distance from where his body was found. Later, the chemist saw his brother-in-law reading the book, just kind of assumed it was his. But afterwards, his brother-in-law stuck the book in this guy's glove box, presumably for safekeeping, which is where it stayed until the chemist saw a newspaper headline saying that the police were looking for a copy of that book. And then he handed it over to investigators, and they found it contained even more critical clues. Investigators discovered that there was some faint writing on the last page, the same page that Taman Shud had been torn out of. It couldn't be read clearly with the naked eye, but under UV light, police were able to make out 2 things: a local phone number, X3239, and a series of random letters with the second line crossed out. And we're going to post a picture for you guys so you can see this on our YouTube and our Instagram. Seemingly, it's just a bunch of letters on a couple different lines. So like the first line, for example, is WRGOABABD.
Yeah, almost like you could scramble it to spell a different word.
Yeah, what is that?
Or something.
An anagram?
Yeah.
Whatever those are.
Yeah, it's confusing.
It's giving
Or maybe
code.
there's some sort of, yeah, like it's like a code. Like each letter is associated with a different letter and it could spell a word if you cracked it.
If you could crack it, if you had a cipher for it. It's confusing because some lines are crossed out and none of the lines, like, they look like they can spell anything. Like a few of the letters are a little ambiguous. Like there's 2 W's that could also be read as M's, and the I in the last line could be a V. Either way, it is extremely puzzling. They can't crack it on their own. It's really making it look like this guy could actually be an international spy.
Well, on July 27th, 1949, 4 days after they get the book, the police send the code to the Australian Navy codebreaker. This is something we see a lot. They're always sending it to the Navy to be like, can you break this code? Hoping that the Australian Navy codebreaker could quickly tell them what the note said. But unfortunately, he's not able to conclusively crack it. And they're kind of like, well, if he can't do it, no one can. Neither has anyone else in the last 77 years since this mystery began. It's still not cracked to this day. We still don't really know what it means.
Uncrackable. There are a few theories on this, though. One is that the code was a substitution cipher. These are basically codes where one letter gets substituted for another. These ciphers were used pretty often to pass messages between spies in World War II and the Cold War. This encryption code is essentially unbreakable by anyone who doesn't have its specific key. In the case of the Somerton Man, the key seemed to be his exact edition of the rubaiyat, making this what's called a book cipher or a one-time pad. This is like really crafty code breaking lingo for us all here. The gross oversimplification is each letter in the code corresponds to a letter in the book. The person receiving the message follows a bunch of steps to figure out what letter corresponds with what using the book. So a Q could equal A or B equals Y, but both parties need to have the exact same edition of the book to decrypt it. All this to say, you guys, if the Somerton Man was using the book for his key, he could have had been a current or former spy, maybe from Russia as part of the Cold War. That could fit with some of the other evidence, like not carrying any form of ID, not matching any Australian dental records, and the fact that at this point, his most likely cause of death is looking like an undetectable poison.
But the best way to prove the spy theory would be to decode the message and figure out what he was saying.
You would think.
And somehow, police lost or destroyed the copy of the Rubaiyat that the Tamanshud scrap came from. So despite an extensive search, modern investigators have never been able to find an identical copy to try and run the code against. Botch it.
Every week, we dive into the pieces, both hidden and obvious, behind some of the biggest true crime cases. Subscribe to Clues Pod with Morgan Absher and Kaelyn Moore on YouTube.
And remember, every clue counts.